Good evening, friends. Welcome and happy new year to all of you. Basically, आज का जो हमने सेशन रखा है, the purpose is there are some fundamental changes into GST law. Not the fundamental changes, but the intention of the government is very clear through these changes. And the time has come. If the compliances has not is not done in proper way, then the consequences are very high. The government introduced a lot of changes in Finance Act 2021. These were fundamental changes and were in public domain from the last many months, but they have been implemented with effect from 1st of January 2021. ऐसे बहुत सारे मेजर चेंजेस हैं जो गवर्नमेंट ने इंट्रोड्यूस कर दिए थे लास्ट फाइनेंस बिल में, फाइनेंस एक्ट 2021 में, एंड दे हैव बीन incorporated into action. They have been converted into action wide notifications issued in December 2021, and they have been made effective from 1st of January 2021. So what are those changes and what are the implication of those changes? The first and foremost major change is the utilization of the ITC. Basically, if we see about GST, it is nothing about, it is only output tax and input tax. And where the fight is? The fight is क्या असेसी ने आईटीसी जो क्लेम किया वो सही क्लेम किया है कि नहीं किया, और जो आउटपुट टैक्स पे किया है वो पूरा किया है कि नहीं पे किया। शुरू से गवर्नमेंट और असेसी के बीच में एक सबसे बड़ा झगड़ा या सबसे बड़ा बोन ऑफ कंटेंशन इज there are number of points where government is trying to put restriction to utilize ITC. अगर हम ITC की बेसिक स्कीम में जाएं तो सेक्शन 16 of the CGST Act provides a registered person can use the input tax credit for his business purposes. Then 16 subsection 2 since beginning provides certain restrictions, certain conditions कि अगर वो conditions पूरी हो रही हैं तभी ITC utilize करा जा सकता है। Basically what I have said, Finance Act 2021 में changes introduced किए गए हैं and they have been made implemented from 1st of January 2022. Thank you Venkat ji for made me correct. I have basically the जो भी changes आज हम discuss कर रहे हैं वो changes 1st of January 2022 से implement हुए हैं। The पहला change है ITC से related। अगर हम सेक्शन 16(2) में जाते हैं तो बेसिकली चार कंडीशन शुरू से स्पेसिफाइड हैं कि taxes should have been paid, you should have some duty paid documents, returns should have been filed. From 9th of October 2019, the government introduced Rule 36(4), जहां पर गवर्नमेंट ने ये कहने की कोशिश करी कि अगर आपका आईटीसी आप जो क्लेम कर रहे हैं जो 2A में रिफ्लेक्ट हो रहा है, जो जीएसटीआर 1 फाइल कर रहा है आपका वेंडर, अगर उस पर रिफ्लेक्ट नहीं हो रहा तो उसके आप बियॉन्ड 20% यू कैन नॉट यूटिलाइज। Then they next year restricted it to 10%. Then last year they restricted it to 5%. In many courts, Rule 36(4) was challenged on the ground कि it has no legal backing. अगर हम स्कीम ऑफ लॉ में देखें तो फर्स्ट इज द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, देन द एक्ट शुड बी मेड विद इन द परव्यू ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, देन द रूल शुड कम विद इन द परव्यू ऑफ द एक्ट। बहुत सारे रिट पिटीशंस कोर्ट के में पेंडिंग्स हैं जहां पर मेन कंटेंशन ये है कि रूल 36(4) इज नॉट एज पर द प्रोविजंस ऑफ द एक्ट। उस गैप को कवर करने के लिए व्हाट आई फील द गवर्नमेंट इंट्रोड्यूस्ड सेक्शन 16 सबसेक्शन 2 क्लॉज AA इन फाइनेंस एक्ट 2021, जहां पर 5% और 10% की रिस्ट्रिक्शन की बात ही नहीं आई। द गवर्नमेंट स्टेटेड, द लॉ स्टेटेड कि अगर आप वही इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट क्लेम कर सकते हैं जो आपके वेंडर्स ने जीएसटीआर 1 में फाइल कर दिया है, अगर वो आपके उसमें क्रेडिट में क्लेम नहीं हो रहा है तो यू कैन नॉट क्लेम इट। एंड कॉरस्पॉन्डिंगली रूल 36(4) हैज बीन आल्सो अमेंडेड, क्योंकि पहले 5% का लिवरेज था, वो 5% के लिवरेज को अब दे हैव चेंज इट। तो बेसिकली फंडामेंटल चेंज ये है कि रूल 36(4) एंड सेक्शन 16(2) सबसेक्शन A की वजह से अगर मेरा क्रेडिट मेरे जीएसटीआर 1 मेरे वेंडर्स ने फाइल नहीं किया है तो उसका क्रेडिट मेरे को नहीं मिलेगा। अब 5% और 10% की इशू ही नहीं बचा। यहाँ पर इस चीज के कारण कई सारे इश्यूज अराइज हो रहे हैं, हम उन इश्यूज को डिस्कस करने की कोशिश करेंगे। सबसे पहले अगर हम रूल 36 में जाएं, तो जो मेरा ड्यूटी पेड डॉक्यूमेंट्स हैं, मैं किन किन डॉक्यूमेंट्स के बेसिस पर इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट क्लेम कर सकता हूं। मैं क्लेम कर सकता हूं, मेरे पास मेरे वेंडर्स की इनवॉइसेस हैं, डेबिट नोट है, बिल ऑफ एंट्री है अगर मैं इंपोर्ट करता हूं, आईएसडी की इनवॉइस है, और मैं रिवर्स चार्ज में टैक्स पे कर रहा हूं, तो मेरे को टैक्स खुद इनवॉइस खुद रेज करनी है, एंड दैट शुड बी द बेसिस ऑफ डॉक्यूमेंट टू क्लेम द क्रेडिट। 1st January 2022 से रूल 36(4) has been changed. Section 16(2) clause AA has been introduced, whereby it has been stated कि आप क्लेम कर सकते हैं अगर आपके इनवॉइसेस और डेबिट नोट GSTR 1 में फाइल करे गए हों और आपको 2B में रिफ्लेक्ट हो रहे हो। तो Now the point comes, अगर मैं सेक्शन 16 सबसेक्शन 2 क्लॉज ए को पढ़ूं और रूल 36(1) को पढ़ूं, तो इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट कैन बी क्लेम्ड ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ 4 डॉक्यूमेंट्स। नंबर 1, invoices issued by my vendor, debit note issued by my vendor, bill of entry when I am importing the goods, and the reverse charge invoices when I am making the payment to vendors, where the charge tax has to be discharged by me as a recipient of the services or goods. If I go to the section 16(2) subsection 2 clause AA or rule 36(4), it is talking about the invoices and debit notes if not reflected into not filed in GSTR 1, then the credit will not be available. So in my humble opinion, if we talk about the bill of entry or we talk about the RCM, that should not be covered under section 16(2) subclause AA or rule 36(4). Meaning thereby, in my humble opinion, section 16(2) subclause AA and rule 36(4) are restricting only to the vendors invoices and vendors debit note. They are not talking about bill of entry, because if you are importing the goods, bill of entry, there is no requirement of raising the invoices. And rule 36(4) and 16(2) subclause A talking about the invoices and debit notes, which are required to be filed into GSTR 1 and which are required to be reflected into GSTR 2B. So in my humble opinion, it should be only for the invoices and debit notes which have to be filed by the vendors into their GSTR 1, which will be consequently reflected into our GSTR 2B, because bill of entry and invoices on which we are paying the taxes under reverse charge are not required to be filed by the vendors, and consequently they will not be filing in GSTR 1 of the vendors, so they will not be appearing through GSTR 1 into GSTR 2B, though the bill of entries sometimes are appearing in 2B. But in my humble opinion, if we talk about the input tax credit claim of bill of entry, that will not be covered under section 16(2) AA and rule 36(4), and we should be able to claim the credit even though they may not be appearing in 2B, because the law of impossibility is there and the law of construction is very clear. If law is stating something, we have to follow that law. 16(2) AA is talking about only invoices and debit notes which are required to be filed into GSTR 1. If something is not required to be filed into GSTR 1, the restriction should not be there. That is my humble opinion, and I feel some down the line the clarification should come that the restriction is not for bill of entry, or restriction is not for where the credit is claimed on the basis of RCM invoices. The second issue comes, the amendment is applicable from 1st of January 2022. Whether it will be applicable for the invoices which are issued after 1st of January 2022, or it will be invoices before 1st of January 2022, but for which the returns are being filed in January or February or March currently. So where the restriction will be applicable? In my humble opinion, the restriction is applicable from 1st of January 2022. It should be applicable for the credits pertaining only after 1st of January 2022. If any invoices which are pertaining before 1st of January 2022, Rule 36(4) new amended rule, or section 16(2) AA should not be applicable. That is my humble opinion. Another important aspect we can derive from this point, that is why the section 16(2) AA has been inserted. If we see, earlier there was rule 36(4), and the government could have amended only rule 36(4). There was no need to bring 16(2) AA. The another interpretation I can take from that, before 1st of January 2022, there was no need to reconcile 2A, 2B or with my ITC. That is one of the points you can be taken because of this amendment. Another important issue which comes from ITC perspective, and one of the important judgment recently came, that was of Bharti Airtel, in which the Supreme Court held. I am not going to the detail of the cases, just picking up the points where the court held the 2A is only for assisting to claim the credit. It is not part of the books of accounts. But because of the amendment in section 16(2) AA, that logics will not be able to utilize after 1st of January 2022, because it is part of the act that your credit should be available for for claiming the credit. So when I claiming the credit, technically I can bifurcate my credits whenever the notices are coming for mismatch or something. I can always bifurcate my credits into three parts. First credit is from 1st of July 2017 to 8th of October 2019, then 8th of October 2019 onwards till 31st of December 2021. If my credits are pertaining before 9th of October 2019, even then 2A 2B reconciliation cannot be demanded, because that was not in even in the rule book. And even the 2A started to appear from September 2018. So any notices coming for mismatch in 2A for the period till September 2018, we can very well contend there was no availability of the 2A. Even for 9th of October 2019, before 9th of October 2019, it should not be make the part of the reconciliation, but the notices are coming and we have to reply that those things accordingly. I'm not going to detail those things. So that was a main point. Now your GSTR 2B is very well part of books of accounts. So two things will arising out of it. Number one, if your vendor has not filed the returns within time, because now because of the new amendments, there was earlier issue was whether you will be taking 2A or 2B. That has been resolved. Now the 2B has to be taken, and it is part of the rule book. So when your vendors has not filed the returns in your credit in time, you will not be able to take the credit in that month, because 2B is a static statement and 2A is a dynamic statement. Once your vendor is failed to file the return within time, let's say your credit of January 2022, the return should be filed by 11th of February 2022. Your vendor filed the return on 15th of February 2022. You will be losing the credit in the month of February. You can claim the credit only in next month. So while doing these compliances, two parts becomes important. Number one, our vendor files the returns. Number two, our vendors file the return within time. Because if they are failed to refile the return, now because it's a part of the act, it will be very difficult to contend the court of law, though there are various precedences. But I feel personally it will be very difficult to challenge it section 16(2) AA, because it's a part of the statute now. So two important aspects: vendor has to file the return and it has to be within time, otherwise we'll be claiming it will be losing the credit in that particular month. So that compliance is a part of our routine exercise that should be there, because if we accept it or not accept it, vendors compliance has been made liability of us also. So that we have to take care if we have to utilize the ITC that way. Second important provision, and that is very important provision. When we talk about the recovery provisions under section in GST law, recovery under section 79 can be done. There are various methods where the recovery can be done, where the bank accounts can be attached, properties can be attached. Various recovery proceedings, methods of recovery has been given under section 79. Section 75 subsection 12 of the CGST Act provides, if there is some assessment, self-assessment tax, that means before the amendment effected, if there was something pending which was pending in GSTR 3B, the recovery proceedings directly can be started. What does it mean? Just try to understand this, and then we will be understanding what is the provision. पहली बात तो ये है कि जो सेक्शन 75 का जो प्रोविजन था 12 का कि अगर कोई सेल्फ असेस टैक्स है तो रिकवरी प्रोविजंस डायरेक्टली शुरू करी जा सकती है, दैट वाज नॉट इफेक्टिव। व्हाई? क्या मैं 3B फाइल कर सकता हूं विदाउट पेइंग माय टैक्सेस? दो द लीगली इट शुड बी पॉसिबल, बट टेक्निकली इट इज नॉट पॉसिबल। मैं 3B में अपना टैक्स ड्यू दिखा के अपने रिटर्न्स को फाइल नहीं कर सकता। सो इफेक्टिवली सेक्शन 75(12) वाज नॉट इफेक्टिव। Now they made a changes. They made a single explanation added there. GSTR1 भी एक रिटर्न होगा, उसमें अगर हमने कोई टैक्सेस दिखाए हैं और पे नहीं किया है तो दैट विल बिकम द सेल्फ असेस टैक्स। दैट मीन्स अगर मैंने अपने GSTR1 में 10 लाख रुपए की लायबिलिटी दिखाई है और मैंने उसको पे नहीं किया है थ्रू GSTR3B, देन इट विल बिकम अ सेल्फ असेस टैक्स एंड रिकवरी प्रोसीडिंग्स अंडर सेक्शन 79 कैन बी डायरेक्टली स्टार्टेड। क्योंकि अदरवाइज रिकवरी प्रोसीडिंग करने के लिए असेसिंग और प्रॉपर ऑफिसर को पहले शो कोज नोटिस देना होगा, प्रोसीडिंग्स होंगी, ऑर्डर पास होगा, देन रिकवरी प्रोसीडिंग्स कैन बी स्टार्टेड। बट बिकॉज ऑफ दिस अमेंडमेंट व्हाट हैज हैपेंड, अगर मैंने अपने GSTR1 में अपनी आउटवर्ड सप्लाई दिखाई है और अपने GSTR3B में उस सप्लाई को नहीं दिखाया है, यानी कि टैक्सेस कम पे किए हैं, तो दैट डिफरेंस विल बी tantamounting टू सेल्फ असेस टैक्स and recovery proceedings under section 79 can be started without going into the show cause notice provisions of section 73, 74, etc. So what will happen? The officer can directly come to you and can ask for the recovery of tax. यहाँ पर lacuna क्या है कि मैंने गलती, अगर देखिए basically what is the issue here? There can be fraud where मैं अपने vendors को credit देने के लिए, अपने customers को credit देने के लिए GSTR1 में अपने returns में दिखाता हूँ लेकिन 3B में tax नहीं pay करता। There can be some genuine errors. मैंने किसी इनवॉइस को 50,000 की जगह पे 5 करोड़ अपने GSTR1 में फाइल कर दिया। So the point is बिकॉज 5 करोड़ के ऊपर मेरी इनवॉइस थी 5,000 रुपए की, मैंने 5 करोड़ रुपए अपने जीएसटी में फाइल कर दिया। वेदर आई विल बी पेइंग टैक्सेस अंडर 5 करोड़? द आंसर इज नो। So what we have to be take caution into this, because there is no provision of GSTR1 amendment, or even negative figures will not go into next month. So we immediately write a letter to our jurisdictional officer. This has happened and I am not able to correct my return in GSTR1. So please take the cognizance of this. What I feel, there are a lot of hue and cry कि सीधे ऑफिसर आएगा, बैंक अकाउंट अटैच कर देगा, and lot of things happen. But what I feel, there should be cushion in law itself also कि कब रिकवरी प्रोसीडिंग्स इन सिचुएशंस में करी जा सकती है, कब नहीं करी जा सकती, कौन सा नोटिस देना होगा। तो दोज थिंग्स विल टाइम विल टेल। बट व्हाट आई फील, एक्ट रूल से सबसे बड़ा हमारा कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है and principle of natural justice can never be ignored. Even मेरे GSTR1 और 3B में difference है, even section 75(12) has been amended. Even what I feel, the principle of natural justice cannot be ignored by the officer. Courts will decide in time to come, and where those recoveries cannot be made directly unless until there's some fraud or something. For genuine mistake, I think the assessee should not worry, but should take precaution. If something has happened, they should immediately write a letter to the jurisdictional officer, so that becomes, it has done, it is a bona fide mistake, and if you are able to rectify next month, we do it. If you are not able to rectify the mistake, because figures cannot come in negative manner in my GSTR1, so that we have to take care. Third important changes, अभी तक क्या होता था कि मैंने GSTR1 फाइल कर दिया, GSTR3B फाइल नहीं किया, तो एक तो ये हो गया कि दैट बिकम्स सेल्फ असेस टैक्स, रिकवरी हो सकती है। दूसरा जो इंपॉर्टेंट चेंजेस है, अगर मैंने GSTR1 फाइल किया है, उसके बाद में GSTR3B फाइल नहीं किया है, तो मैं अगले महीने का GSTR1 फाइल नहीं कर पाऊंगा। दैट इज अनदर इंपॉर्टेंट चेंजेस। दैट मीन्स मंथली कॉम्प्लायंस या क्वार्टरली, जो भी मेरे लास्ट टैक्स पीरियड का GSTR3B है, अगर मंथली क्वार्टरली टैक्स है, तो उस केस में मैं अगले महीने का GSTR1 फाइल नहीं कर पाऊंगा। व्हाई दिस वाज रिक्वायर्ड? ये कहीं ना कहीं जो फेक इनवॉइसेस के रैकेट्स चल रहे हैं, जहां पर एक्चुअल में गुड्स का मूवमेंट नहीं होता, और 2A में क्योंकि इनवॉइस में रिफ्लेक्ट हो जाता है, तो ये एक tantamount है कि क्रेडिट मिल जाएगा। तो उस प्रैक्टिस को रोकने के लिए द गवर्नमेंट हैज इंट्रोड्यूस्ड कि जब तक 3B फाइल नहीं होगा, आप नेक्स्ट पीरियड का GSTR1 फाइल नहीं कर सकते। That we have to keep in mind. Another change, I'll be discussing very few changes that is going to impact in a big way to us in the compliance, that we have to keep in mind. जो मैंने अभी चेंज बताया रिटर्न्स का, दैट वाज इन रूल 59(6). इसके अलावा आज की डेट में जब भी हमारा सामान इधर से एक सिटी से दूसरी सिटी या एक स्टेट से दूसरे स्टेट में जा रहा है, वी प्रिपेयर द ईवी बिल, द गुड्स गो along with basically the tax invoice or bill of entry plus EV bill. If the documents are not complete or documents are mismatched, detention is done under section 129. Cases, the department passing the order under section 129, taxpayer goes for appeal under 107, एंड अभी तक वो कह रहा था कि मैं सेक्शन 129 में अगर मेरी गाड़ी डिटेन होती है तो मैं 100% टैक्स प्लस 100% पेनल्टी पे करता हूं। नो, दे हैव कन्वर्टेड इनटू 200% ऑफ द पेनल्टी। अब 107 में जब मैं अपील के लिए फाइल जाता हूं और अपीलेट अथॉरिटी के पास जाता हूं, तो फर्स्ट अपीलेट अथॉरिटी जो कमिश्नर अपील्स है, उस केस में मेरे को अपील में प्री डिपॉजिट फाइल करना पड़ता है, and that was 10% of the deposit. Pre-deposit was 10% of the disputed tax amount. तो 129 के अंदर क्या हो रहा था कि लेट से मेरा जो सामान है उसके ऊपर 10 लाख रुपए का टैक्स था, एसएस टैक्स इनवॉइसेस के हिसाब से, या ऑफिसर ने एसएस किया। मैं 10 लाख रुपए का टैक्स प्लस 10 रुपए की पेनल्टी भरता था, अपने सामान को ले जाता था, प्लस मैं 107 की अपील बाद में फाइल करता था और मेरे को कुछ डिपॉजिट करने की एक्स्ट्रा जरूरत नहीं पड़ती थी। बिकॉज ऑफ जो मैं टैक्स पे करता था उसका क्रेडिट भी अवेलेबल नहीं था और मैं पेनल्टी भी पे कर देता था। दैट मींस 10 लाख अगेंस्ट में 20 लाख जमा करके अपने सामान को ले जाता था और अपील भी फाइल हो सकती थी। नाउ विद द न्यू अमेंडमेंट व्हाट इज दे हैव मेड द चेंजेस अंडर सेक्शन 107, अपील जो 129 की केसेस हैं उसमें मेरे को 25% ऑफ द पेनल्टी अमाउंट जमा करानी पड़ेगी। अब इसका इंप्लीकेशन समझने की कोशिश करिए। बिफोर अमेंडमेंट मेरे टैक्स की वैल्यू 10 लाख रुपए की थी, तो मैं 10 लाख रुपए टैक्स प्लस 10 लाख रुपए की पेनल्टी पे करके गुड्स को ले जाता था और मैं अपील फाइल कर सकता था विदाउट डिपॉजिटिंग एनी अमाउंट। बट आफ्टर दीज चेंजेस व्हाट विल हैपन, मेरा ट्रक पकड़ा गया बिकॉज ऑफ एनी डॉक्यूमेंट गैप, 200% penalty has to be paid. That means 20 lakhs penalty will be paid. Earlier it was 10 lakh tax plus 10 lakh penalty. No, it is 20 lakhs penalty. बिफोर अमेंडमेंट मैं जब इसको अपील में जाता था तो मेरे को कुछ डिपॉजिट करने की जरूरत नहीं थी। नो, आफ्टर 1 जनवरी 2022 अगर मैं अपील में जाऊंगा तो 25% ऑफ द पेनल्टी, दैट मींस 20 लाख का 25% यानी कि 5 लाख रुपए मेरे को प्री डिपॉजिट करना पड़ेगा टू फाइल एन अपील। तो इफेक्टिवली अगर मेरा 10 लाख रुपए का टैक्स है तो मेरे को 20 lakhs एज ए पेनल्टी प्लस 5 लाख रुपए प्री डिपॉजिट करना पड़ेगा टू गो इनटू अपील। वेयर इफेक्टिवली मैं देखूं तो टैक्स का 50% हो जाता है, दो इट इज 25% ऑफ द पेनल्टी, बट कैलकुलेशन वाइज अगर मैं देखूं तो मेरे को टैक्स का 50% टैक्स एडिशनल आउटफ्लो करना पड़ेगा व्हाइल फाइलिंग अपील टू द कमिश्नर अपील। सो दैट अनदर इंपॉर्टेंट चेंज, एंड विद द ब्लो टू द पीपल देयर मे बी बोनाफाइड मिस्टेक्स, बट द कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस, द फाइनेंशियल कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस आर हाई if the truck is retained in between on the way and the penalty is imposed under section 129 and we want to go for the appeal under section 107. So these were very important changes. Apart from there are rate changes which I will not be going to discuss. Rate are changes, textile the government has rolled back, otherwise it was increased from 5% to 12%. The main purpose was to fill the gap for inverted rate of duty structure for input and output, but because of the industry pressure that has been taken back. Another important rate change is works contract for government entities that will increase from 5 to 12%. Last important change I will be discussing about the section 83. सेक्शन 83 में कमिश्नर को पावर है कि वो प्रोविजनली अटैच कर सकता है। क्या चेंज आया बस मैं उसको डिस्कस करूंगा। बेसिकली अगर हम देखें तो व्हाट वाज द प्रोविजन, द प्रोविजन वाज कि कमिश्नर वाज एम्पावर्ड टू मेक द अटैचमेंट, मेक द ऑर्डर फॉर द प्रोविजनल अटैचमेंट अंडर 6 सेक्शंस, section 62, section 63, section 64 and 73, 67, 73 and 74 in any proceedings. Now the word is after initiation of any proceedings under chapter 12, chapter 14, chapter 15. Chapter 12 is basically for the assessment from 59 to 64. Chapter 14 is for inspection and search and seizure, that is from 67 to 72. Then chapter 15 for demand and recovery 75 to 84. तो यहाँ पर इनिशिएशन ऑफ प्रोसीडिंग जैसे ही कोई काम इसमें डिपार्टमेंट ने कोई एक्टिविटी शुरू करी इन सेक्शंस के अंदर, द प्रोविजनल अटैचमेंट कैन बी डन not only to the taxable person but to any other person who has taken the benefit. So the scope of the power of the commissioner has been quite enough, and there is no basically safeguards in these provisions. Time will tell how the things will take shape, but these are very, I will say, draconian provisions, because you have given the power to the commissioner. Even the notice has come to me for scrutiny assessment or mismatch of the returns. The power under section 83 can be invoked, because everyone cannot run to the high court and take the relief. So what I feel, there should be some guidelines, there should be some safeguards for applicable to the officers also while applying these provisions. But right now they are not there, but they have widened the scope from 6 sections to 22 sections. Yeah, initially it was only for 6 sections. Now it is made applicable, wide applicable to section 22 sections, and not only for taxable person but to any person under who has taken the benefit of those transactions. Basically, all these things are happening because of the fraud transactions. But my point is, all people or all taxable person are not doing fraud. So, but it will be impacted. It will make the impact on all the persons who got the notices for any proceedings. Commissioner can order for provisional attachment even after initiation of the proceedings, and this is wide enough power given to section to the commissioners. Another important change was basically club and association. Section 7 has been made has been changed, and that is from 1st of July 2017. Because of the Calcutta Club decision, the government made this change. Because of this change, the club association, if charging anything from its member, they will be treated as separate person and the GST will be chargeable. And the important point is, this provision has been made effective from 1st of July 2017. Now the time will tell how it will be, whether it will be able to withstand before the court of law or not. But right now, it has been made effective from 1st of July 2017. Lastly, recently the annual returns date for the GST purpose has been increased, has been from 31st December to 28th February 2022. In this, my one of the humble suggestion, and many of the experts are giving that view also, for the GST audit purpose or GST, it is not GST audit because now the assessee has to self-certify it. We'll say annual return. We should not never insist on the extension of the dates. The reason is, जो हमारे 73 74 की जो डेट्स हैं वो एनुअल रिटर्न्स की डेट से लिंक है. जहां मैंने 2 महीने का टाइम बढ़ाया, मेरा जो 73 के अंदर जो 3 साल का पीरियड है या 74 के अंदर 5 साल का पीरियड है, दैट इज फर्दर एक्सटेंडेड फॉर 2 मंथ्स. दैट इज गिविंग मोर टाइम टू द ऑफिसर्स to open the case, to go for the proceedings, to issue the show cause notice. So that is not in our favor. So that is my humble opinion and suggestion. We should never ask for the extension of the dates for the GST returns, annual returns. Rather, we should ask for the waiver of the late fee or penalty in case there are delays, because the extension of the date is not fruitful for us. Ultimately, it is giving more time to the officers to issue the show cause notice and doing the demand and recovery proceedings under section 73 and 74. So these were the few important changes which I wanted to discuss, because these are very important changes which has been made effective from 1st of January 2022. The law has become more stringent, and we have to see that our client and ourselves are able to cope with these changes, and ultimately these changes require somewhere automation. Otherwise, the time will be difficult, where the non-compliances may result in a heavy financial burden or sometime other consequences for the assessee. So this was all discussion from my side. If we have any question, you can write down here related to these discussions. We can discuss and we can take it forward, or otherwise we can close the session. If you have any question, we can take it here. I think there is no question. I will end the session now, because this was very. I will what I'll be doing. I'll be sharing some document also for these changes. Though you may be aware of that, if it may be useful. So thanks all of you for joining the session, and again happy New Year, and wish in 2022 will be more compliant with the law, and be able to make the assessee's life more easier and also our life. Thank you and happy New Year again. Thank you very much to all of you.